Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The warm glow of the candles flickered across the room, casting soft shadows that danced on the walls of our dining room. Tonight was special, marking 15 years since Emily and I had exchanged our vows, and I had gone to great lengths to make it perfect. The table was set with her favorite flowers, lilacs and white roses, and the air was scented with her preferred blend of vanilla and sandalwood. As the evening unfolded, Emily seemed genuinely touched by the efforts. We reminisced about our travels, our joys, and the hurdles we had overcome together. Every laugh and touch from her made me feel like the luckiest man alive. After a hearty meal, as we settled into our dessert, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression changing momentarily before she masked it with a smile. "Sorry, honey, it's Mom. She probably wants to wish us too." "Let me just take this," she said, her voice slightly hurried as she disappeared into the kitchen. Curiosity nudged at me after a few minutes of her absence. Deciding to see if she needed any help, I walked toward the kitchen. As I approached, the faint murmur of her voice floated to my ears, not through the door, but through the slightly ajar window that led to the backyard. Pausing by the curtains, I listened, my heart starting to race. "No, I can't tell him yet. I don't love him anymore, not like I love you," she whispered into the phone. "It's been too long. I'm scared of how he'll react." My breath hitched in my throat, the sweetness of the anniversary turning bitter in an instant. My hands trembled, and the room felt colder, darker. I stood frozen, not just by the chill of the evening air but by the ice that formed around my heart. The rest of her words became a blur as pain clouded my senses. I retreated silently, the weight of her betrayal sinking deep. Once back in the dimly lit warmth of the dining room, I sank into a chair, my mind racing. The rest of the evening passed in a haze. Emily returned, flashing a smile, unaware of the storm raging inside me. She continued talking about plans for the future, about holidays we should take, unaware that her secrets were now bare to the soul she vowed to cherish. That night, as Emily slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The image of us, happy and in love, shattered into fragments too sharp to piece back together. Her words echoed, a haunting melody of betrayal. By dawn, I had made up my mind. I would not let this deception define me. Instead, I would craft my own closure. The following days were a calculated play of normalcy as I began to lay the groundwork for my next steps. I delved into her financials, our shared assets, and gathered every piece of evidence of her infidelity discreetly. With each fact I uncovered, my resolve hardened. Emily, the woman I loved, was about to become a memory, a painful chapter one was ready to close. As I set my plans into motion, the idea of revenge became a cold comfort. It wasn't just about retribution, it was about reclaiming my life and dignity from the ruins of our fractured vows. My next moves would be decisive, each step carefully orchestrated to ensure that when I finally confronted her, she would realize the magnitude of her betrayal. And so, our tale of love twisted into a narrative of revenge, each moment leading to an inevitable, searing conclusion. The morning light spills into our kitchen, casting long shadows on the floor as I make coffee, the routine motions offering no comfort today. Emily, dressed for work in her crisp suit, breezes into the kitchen, her presence a stark reminder of the chasm between us. "Morning," she chirps, reaching for her cup. Her smile is carefree, a mask so perfect it almost makes me doubt what I heard. "Almost." "Morning," I respond, my voice even. "Big day at the office?" She nods, pouring herself coffee. "Huge. The Henderson project is finally wrapping up. Dinner to celebrate tonight?" The mention of celebration twists something inside me. "Sounds great. I'll make reservations." As she leans in to kiss my cheek, her phone buzzes with a text. I catch a glimpse of the sender, Mark, just before she tucks it away. Her slight flinch confirms the suspicion clawing at me. Mark, the name sears in my mind. After she leaves, I sit down with my laptop. It's time to peel back the layers of Emily's deception. I start with her phone records, an easy task with the software I installed last night after overhearing her conversation. The records reveal long chats with Mark, late into the night, times when she told me she was asleep or working late. I jot down dates and times, creating a timeline of lies. Each entry is a cold splash of reality, a building block in the fortress of evidence I am compiling. My next step is checking her credit card statements. Fancy dinners, gifts, hotel bookings, all not meant for my eyes. The deceit is as blatant as it is painful. Later, as I continue my surveillance, a plan begins to form. I need to see this Mark for myself, gauge the man who's entangled with my wife. I find his address from an old work email I coax out of her laptop. That evening, I drive to the address, a sleek high-rise downtown. The lobby is quiet, save for the echo of my footsteps. I find his name on the mailbox, confirming he lives alone. As I'm about to leave, the elevator dings. Mark steps out. He's tall, confident, the type of man you see in luxury watch ads. Our eyes meet briefly, a flicker of recognition in his gaze, perhaps from a photo with Emily. Back in my car, I feel the adrenaline coursing through me. This confrontation, inevitable as it is, now has a face and a place. Tonight, at dinner, I'll set the stage. Emily returns home, radiant. Got reservations? Yes, I say, keeping my voice neutral. La Maison. 8 p.m. Her smile widens. Perfect. I love that place. The restaurant is dimly lit and intimate, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. We order, and while waiting, I begin to weave my web. Emily, I start, my tone casual, have you been in touch with Mark recently? From your office? Her fork pauses mid-air. Mark? Oh, just some project stuff. Why? Curious, I shrug. He mentioned the other day he hadn't seen you in a while. The lie is deliberate, a small test. Her eyes flicker with confusion, then concern, and she recovers quickly. Well, we've been swamped. Barely time for social chats. Dinner progresses, but the air is thick with unspoken words. As we finish, I lean back, my mind clear on the next steps. Tonight was about confirming my suspicions further, and her reactions have sealed her fate in my eyes. The game of cat and mouse continues, but soon, the cat will strike. The next day dawns with the kind of sharp clarity that only comes after a decision has been firmly made. Today, I resolve to confront Emily, but not before I gather the final piece of incontrovertible evidence. My heart races with a mix of dread and determination as I set my plan into motion. I call in a personal day at work, citing a sudden illness, which isn't entirely a lie given the sickness in my stomach from the turmoil of my crumbling marriage. As Emily prepares for work, I feign a cough to sell my story. Are you sure you'll be okay? Emily asks, her brow furrowed in what looks like genuine concern. I'll be fine, I assure her, managing a weak smile. Just need to rest. Once she leaves, I spring into action. I grab my keys and head to a private investigator's office. Sitting across from the PI, I lay out everything I know and suspect. The PI nods, understanding the assignment without much moral judgment clouding his professional demeanor. We can get you the proof by tonight, he says confidently. Surveillance, photographs, whatever you need to make your next move. Grateful, I head back home to wait, each second ticking by with agonizing slowness. By late afternoon, my phone buzzes, a message from the PI with an attachment. It's a photo of Emily and Mark, unmistakably close, captured as they enter a boutique hotel downtown. My jaw clenches as the reality of the betrayal sharpens into focus. I don't have to wait long for Emily's return. As she steps through the door, I'm ready, the printed photo in my hand. Emily, we need to talk, I say, my voice calm but firm. She looks at me, puzzled, then sees the photo. Her face goes pale, her bag slipping from her shoulder to thud against the floor. Where did you get this? Her voice is barely a whisper, her usual composure shattered. Does it matter? I ask sharply. Is it real? Is this what you've been doing behind my back? Emily sinks into a chair, her face in her hands. After a long moment, she looks up at me, tears in her eyes. Yes, it's real. I'm so sorry, I never meant to hurt you. Sorry doesn't change what happened. Why, Emily? Why him, why lie? She wipes her eyes, struggling for words. I was lonely. You were always working, and Mark, he was there. It just happened. That's no excuse, I snap, the photo crinkling in my tightening grip. You could have talked to me, worked on our issues together. But you chose this. I know, and I regret it every day. Please, can we try to fix this? Her plea hangs in the air, but my decision is already made, the path set by her actions and now my reaction. No, Emily. It's too late for us. I'll be filing for divorce. Her sobs fill the room as I turn away, my heart heavy with the weight of her betrayal and the finality of my words. The future looms uncertain and daunting, but I know that this chapter of my life, our life together, has closed. As I head to my study to call my lawyer, the last vestiges of doubt evaporate. This is the right choice. The path of retribution isn't just about punishment, it's about reclaiming my life and dignity from the ruins she left behind. With each step I take away from her, the more the sharp edges of betrayal begin to dull, replaced by a burgeoning resolve to rebuild and renew. The crisp autumn air bites at my skin as I stand outside the lawyer's office, the divorce papers signed and sealed in my briefcase. The feeling is bittersweet, freedom mingled with the sting of betrayal. Emily's deception has cost us both dearly, and while parting is the only path left, I find no joy in this victory. Returning home, the house feels emptier than ever, the silence a stark contrast to the flood of memories that haunt every room. As I pack up some of her belongings, I stumble upon a series of old love letters I had written to her over the years. Each word, once filled with love, now feels like a cruel joke. It's in this moment, surrounded by the relics of our past, that a plan begins to crystallize, a final farewell to the life we shared, marked not by sentiment but by the cold justice of retribution. I decide it's time for the truth to come out, not just about the affair, but about the depth of her duplicity. I schedule a meeting with both Emily and Mark at a local cafe, the very place where I had proposed to her years ago, turning our sacred spot into the stage for this last act. As they arrive, seeing them together ignites a fire within me. Emily looks wary, perhaps expecting another plea or confrontation, but Mark's arrogance is palpable, his arm around her shoulders as if he's already won. Thank you for coming, I start, my voice steady, betraying none of the tumult inside. I thought this place was fitting, considering its significance. Emily nods, a tremor in her voice. What is this about? It's about closure, I say, pulling out an envelope from my briefcase. I slide it across the table to them. I know about everything. Not just the affair but the lies, the secrets, all of it. Mark scoffs, a smirk playing on his lips. So, what? You drag us here to reminisce? Not quite, I reply, my gaze locking with his. Inside the envelope are not just photos of their affair, but detailed reports of Mark's financial misdealings, information I had uncovered during my investigation, his vulnerability exposed. This is your exit cue, Mark. I've forwarded these to your company's compliance office. I wonder how they'll feel about your extracurricular activities. Mark's face drains of color, his confident demeanor crumbling as he flips through the documents. Emily gasps, her eyes wide with shock. And for you, Emily, I continue, turning to her with a cold resolve, this is goodbye. I want no part in your life. Not now, not ever. Their shock is palpable, their plans for a future together evaporating before their eyes. Emily reaches out, her voice breaking. Please, can we not? No, I cut her off, standing up. My chair scrapes loudly against the floor. This is the end. You both played a game with my heart and my life. Now, you face the consequences on your own. I leave them there, grappling with the fallout, the cold air now a balm to my seething heart. As I walk away, the finality of this act settles in. I've severed the ties that bound me to a past tainted by deceit, and though the path forward is uncertain, it carries the promise of peace, hard-won and deserved. Tonight, the hero walks alone, but he walks free, his retribution complete, leaving behind the traitors to stew in the mess of their own making. The final act isn't just an end, it's a beginning, a rebirth from the ashes of betrayal.